So thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I mean, I think it's interesting being invited to talks like this today, because in talking about integration and agility, it's often the creatives that are blamed for only the bloody creatives would change the way they behave and the way they think. We could pull this off. And so I thought it might be interesting today to give you a bit of a sense of the mindset of creatives, and just give some background so you understand the context of which I come from. As in that I come from proximity, so a direct and digital background, and worked within the AMV group, so that was kind of the, particularly with AMV and Redwood. So I worked in the collaboration or integration model of a group. I also worked a lot on P&G, so if any of you have worked on P&G, you understand the loop team and how loop teams work. And so again, the way integration works with that. And then now, obviously, as Group ECD at Karmarama, I work with a variety of agencies under the same roof. So agencies that have been bought by Karmarama as a content provider, a social agency, a digital and direct agency, a TV production. So again, a very different model. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk to you about that, and about how the different models work and how the different creatives work across that. So are we ready to? Total integration. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. That sense of, bizarrely, given who we are quite black and white creatives. We like rules for some reason. I think particularly creatives, I've been in the industry for 20 years, so started in and above the line at McCann Erickson's in Australia. And I think that the discipline of distilling messages down to 30 seconds, or, when I was a junior copywriter, I was not allowed to write more than 8 words. If you had more than 8 words on a headline, it simply didn't work. So actually a lot of us were trained to be very disciplined about our craft skills, and our skill was in distilling the strategy down to something that could be conveyed in 30 seconds or 8 words. So I think that sort of set a tone for a lot of the way creatives think now. Going to an agency like Proximity was about direct, and your job as a direct creative isn't sort of over until you understand what the response was. So that changes the way you think, and I think that's why the direct agencies were so successfully able to transfer to digital so early, and we were one of the first to do that. And I think because we understood the feedback loop and we saw that as part of the creative process, but that sort of is getting into grey. It's not as black and white then. There's not the absolutes that creatives in the more traditional agencies understood. And almost your job as a creative director, and a lot of people, the other question I get asked about a lot is female versus male creative directors, because not many of us are female. But the skill, and when I was growing up in creative departments, the skill of an alpha creative director was that ability to be very strong on the work, and this is the way, and follow me. And so that was almost what the role of the creative director was, which again went back to that very black and white world versus dealing with 50 shades of grey. So what is it about grey that makes us uncomfortable, particularly as a creative community? I love this quote. I've used it before in an IPA, so forgive me if you were at the IPA planning talk that I gave. People will always prefer black and white over shades of grey, and so there will always be the temptation to hold overly simplified beliefs and to hold them with excessive confidence. And I think that's sort of, it's not just a creative community, but it gives you an understanding of why, as a group, which is about conceptual work, we do cling to black and white. Particularly, I find that with the TV creatives I work with now at Karmarama. So I have a theory that might help you when working with your creative departments, and it's about a creationist versus evolutionist approach. And I think what was thought of as traditional creatives, the ones who came and developed kind of work that was to be broadcast, was very much a creationist approach. So you take a concept and you craft it and you mold it and you make it perfect. And not until you think it's absolutely perfect do you launch it to the world. And then you have paid media, obviously, to support that. And I think what's interesting about that is how incredibly inspiring a creationist approach can be. So there is, and this talk and my approach is not about one way is better than the other, but how the two can work together. So the creationist in the creative department is absolutely necessary, but they will be the ones who want to craft and hold on to it before it's released. And they are much more used to a paid media support of that. Evolutionists tend to come from a digital background or a direct background because what we do is work in beta. We put something out there and we are very much look at the feedback and then evolve the concept or the work as we get feedback. I was interested yesterday, I'm a member of WACL, which I'm not sure if you all know. WACL is a group of women in the advertising industry, and we have a day every year called Gather, which is about young women coming and hearing inspiring speakers, and it's very kind of motivational, but sort of for the young generation of women in the industry. And I'm on the committee for Gather, and it was my role yesterday to be community manager of the handle, WACL One handle, which those of you who know WACL, so that's quite a difficult brand to be the community manager of, because they're very specific in the way they speak and portray themselves. And but my audience that day, yesterday, with Gather, and the name of the conference was She Who Dares Wins, was a very different. So all day as a community manager, I was tweeting on the WACL One handle, kind of aware of the brand that I was representing, and I am a member, one of the younger members of that organisation, but also very aware of the audience that we were engaging on that handle, who don't usually engage with the WACL One handle. And because of my background and my discipline, I look at the likes and I look at the retweets, and I evolve the way I was creating the messaging because of the feedback that I was getting from the audience, which is very much the way, my raison d'etre and the way I work. But it was interesting knowing I was coming here today to speak to you, thinking about that as a creative. And these days as a ECD, I'm not often on the keyboards doing the work. So it was interesting for me reminding myself how, as a creative, that's a really interesting way. For me, I get the thrill out of the response. And then evolving the messaging because of that. So it was kind of an interesting example. So it has meant that we need to be more mercurial, I guess, and that thought of is not about that sort of discipline around the colour palette, the fonts, the typeset. That was where a lot of us at my age kind of started. It's about having a more mercurial approach to advertising and to brand messaging. So at Karmarama, we talk about how brands behave versus what brands say, and lots of agencies have similar kind of positionings. But I think what's important with thinking about total integration is this is incredibly important to understand that brands behaving and for creatives to be interested in how brands behave, because I then think you can be on the keyboard responding on a brand's behalf and understanding if this is the type of behaviour versus this is what the brand, in the guidelines, this is what the brand said. That helps you as a creative think differently around the way you create your work. The analogy I always use, to the point that my creatives are so sick of it, is it's like a stand-up comedian. If you think of a creationist approach, is that you set a comedian who is saying that they tell funny jokes, versus an evolutionist approach is a comedian getting up and telling funny jokes. So again, around behaving rather than saying. This is the good works is what the Karmarama group the mantra that we use. And again, it very much comes to this idea of if you understand the brand purpose, you have, and this is obviously for the agency rather than for clients, but this is what we also take to our clients and think about what is the purpose of the brand, and how is the brand going to evolve over time under this idea of good works. It's been spoken about a bit, so I won't go on about it. One of the things we have at Karmarama is a newsroom, and I guess the reason why I was talking about it, want to talk about it, is because I do think it is about a state of mind, being able to create work that can be integrated, that is integrated. But you don't need to have the state of the war rooms, I agree, but having an always-on newsroom helps. Onken's one of our clients. We do, with YouTube, twice a week we do a newsreel where we take content that's good news, because of the brand purpose of Onken is good things for mums, and so it's a brand that's evolved over time, and the newsreel is grows week by week. So it's a commitment to an ongoing news feed, versus we have an editorial team that look at what's trending every day, what's in the news, so that we can be very fast in the way we react to news. So First Kiss, which most of you will have known, trended about a month ago, and 3 hours later, Snog is one of our clients, and we launched a parody. Within 3 hours, we were able to put that up because we've got the studios at Karmarama to be able to react to it. So, in summary, it is a state of mind. One of the things, a man called Michael Bork, who used to run the AMV group, and when AMV group were first looking at integration, he talked about there's no egos or silos, and that was sort of 15 years ago, and I still think that's incredibly, that without that philosophy, without that idea of hierarchy, it's very impossible to create integrated work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.